Hey there. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to ask a couple of things. What I would love to ask of you is if you are enjoying the show, to please consider leaving a rate on Spotify and a review on Apple Podcast. And you simply do that by going to Apple Podcast, going to the show, and scrolling down just a tad, and you will see where you can rate and review. And on Spotify, it's the same thing, but you cannot leave a review on Spotify. It's just a rate. But both are welcome and appreciated, as this, number one, lets me know what you're enjoying and if you are enjoying the podcast. But number two, it is the way in which the algorithms work. And so this is how we're going to get this podcast out to more mamas who are looking to expand in this midlife. And so I would be truly appreciative and grateful for those rates and reviews. Let's get into today's episode because I am super excited to talk about this topic. See y'all soon. Hey there, Midlife Mama. Welcome back to today's episode. We are actually between seasons, but I'm going to be doing a couple of bonus episodes because I have some things that have been on my heart for the last few weeks, and conversation has been swirling, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I want to use this platform as a way to educate and help us to take steps to make change. And right now, our health in our country is not in the greatest shape. And so there are some key things I think that play into it. And one of those is food, of course, and how our food is made. And so the topic that we're going to talk about today is food dyes, because I'm super passionate about understanding what they are, where they come from, how they're made, the negative impacts, and now they're starting to switch up the names because people are waking up to what they actually are. And so I want to give you guys a sneak peek so that when you're reading your ingredients, because I know y'all are becoming ingredient detectives, that you have some of these sub names that you might see, kind of like the whole sugar thing. So I'll do a little downloadable document and I'll post it on Instagram in a couple of days. But for now, I just want to leave you guys with the information. It'll be in the show notes, of course, so you can always go and peek there. But then I'll definitely make a freebie so that you guys can get it and save it, and then you can refer to it. So let's get started. Did you guys know that the foods that we eat here in the United States, first of all, are packed with a lot of color additives? And the kicker is that they're not allowed in other countries like Canada and Europe. So I want you to let that sink in for a second. We have some companies here in the United States, and I'm going to talk about Kellogg's today, who creates, and obviously we'll just talk about cereal. So they create a cereal, and they create it one way for us in the United States, because we don't regulate as well and as many different things. We have 10,000 plus chemicals that are approved by our FDA. And in Europe and Canada, there's only like 400. So you can tell that there's a giant variation between countries. So here they formulate ours with with different dyes that are harmful for our health. But over there, they use real food, like beets and watermelon and carrots to color their foods. I don't know about you, but I am absolutely not okay with that. And I hope that you're not either. There is absolutely no reason on earth why our children deserve to have foods that are filled with synthetic dyes, while other kids in other countries have foods that are colored with real food. That infuriates me, and I hope that it does you too. We need to take action. We need to do things to get this changed because it's just not okay. So I want to start with an understanding of what dyes are, what they're really made from, and what some of the safety concerns are around them. Also, their new names that you could hear, and so forth. Most synthetic food dyes are made from petroleum. Yes, petroleum, which is the same oil that is used to make gasoline, asphalt, and plastics. These artificial colorings are chemically processed to create bright, vibrant colors to make the food look more appealing. So here's a little breakdown of some of the common ingredients used in synthetic dyes. The first one is the petroleum-derived chemicals. the base material for most artificial dyes, and these are processed into different compounds to create specific colors. The second one is heavy metals and salts. Some of the food dyes contain small amounts of metals like aluminum and salts to stabilize the color. And coal tar derivatives is the third one. And historically, many of the food dyes were derived from coal tar, though today most come from the petroleum sources. The artificial creation process has led to concerns about their safety. And as some of the studies link them to potential health risks such as hyperactivity, allergies, and even cancer. Natural alternatives to synthetic dyes include colorings from, like for Europe and like for Canada, beets, turmeric, spirulina, watermelon, carrots, which again come from a whole food plant-based source instead. And so that is what I want for our kids here in the United States. That's what I want to talk about today. What are things that we can do to start moving the needle in that direction? I want to talk a little bit about some statistics. So food dyes were originally in the 1900s. They passed an act called the Pure Food and Drug Act, which is what started regulating the color additives into the system. And currently today, there are 9 food dyes that are approved by the FDA for use. But again, they're not approved over in the other countries. Therefore, this company and many other companies alike are formulating differently for different standards. And so we need to change our standards and come up with the time here. So the craziest part, though, is this act was passed in the 1900s. And since 1955 till today, food dye consumption has increased 5-fold. That means that because we have so much processed foods that are being eaten, the amount of food dyes has gone up, the consumption has gone up. So 43% of products that are marketed to kids have these dyes in them. And if you remember when we talked about what happens, that it makes them into vibrant colors. So kids are drawn and attracted to that. But 90% of the dyes that are used are really made from 3 particular numbers, which is red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, the names red, yellow, blue, they don't mean a lot on their own, but again, they're starting to change these names up because people are starting to recognize and become educated. And so if they switch it up, then, basically the colors are going to be hiding in plain sight unless we know what the words are. Let's talk about a few of them so that we're armed and ready when we go in to read ingredients. The first one we're going to talk about is red number 3, which is now can be seen as erythricin. There's titanium dioxide, which does not have an additional name. Red number 40 can also be called Allura Red AC. Yellow number 6 can be referred to as Sunset Yellow. Yellow number 5 can be referred to as Tertrazine. Then there's caramel color. There's blue number 2, which can be also known as indigotine. And then green 3 is fast green FCF. Now, excuse me for some of the pronunciations because those words are a little bit kooky. And if I saw those on a label and I didn't know what they were, I'd either A, look them up, or B, I just wouldn't ingest something that sounded crazy like that. So with that being said, what's the big deal? So what if they put food dyes in? I mean, we all have had the experience of taking something and dropping a few food coloring drops in and it changes and it's pretty color, right? But there really are negative impacts for our health. And so I'm going to start with blue 2, that is linked to hyperactivity, asthma, and brain and bladder tumors. Blue 1 is connected to hyperactivity, kidney tumors, and asthma. Green 3 can be linked to bladder and testicular cancer. Yellow 6 can be linked to hyperactivity, adrenal, and testicular cancer. Yellow 5, thyroid cancer and breast cancer. Red 3, thyroid cancer and breast cancer. And red number 40, hyperactivity and various types of cancer. Also, green 3 is banned in Europe. Interesting, right? Why is it banned there? And the other one, that the titanium dioxide, that possibly causes cancer in humans. And then the caramel color also harms our immune system and puts us at higher risk for cancer. So I hear a lot of DNA stuff. I hear a lot of cancer risks. I hear a lot of food allergies and eczema and asthma and all of the things that just don't sound like they're things that we should be giving to our kids at a very young age. So the next thing I wanted to just touch on real quick is color psychology. Because, colors are not just pretty, but they're also powerful and they make us feel a certain way. And so the colors yellow and orange stimulate hunger. Red gets our blood pumping and evokes passion and emotion. Blue is associated with trust. And so when companies are adding these food dyes, it's more than just making them look a certain way. It's also about making us feel a certain way. And so you just have to wonder how much thought these scientists put into creation of something. And one side note to all of this, back in the early days, when people started to understand that cigarette smoke was bad for us, their bottom line went down. Sales of cigarettes went down once there was that label put on, because people listened to what's put on the front of things. And so as it became known that they cause cancer and they cause other health issues, some people did stop smoking. And so the bottom line of that industry went down. So what they did was they started to buy food companies. And so the tobacco industry owns our top 3 food companies in the United States. Pretty scary, I think. What they did was they took their scientists who were creating tobacco cigarettes and moved them over to be a chemist or a scientist for food. And then they also brought their lobbyists over. So again, we can tell just by that particular thing that's not in the best interest of the people to have those type of people working behind the scenes, because they're working on creating things that are addictive, that are palatable, that make us seek out wanting to eat more. That are not good for our health. And so that was just a little side note of how this all has started to come about, because obviously our health and our wellness wasn't always where it is today. Now that we understand the names, the pseudonames, and some of the effects, you might be wondering, what in the world is going on here? So if this is new to you and you feel overwhelmed, please just remember the whole concept of the 1% shift. First, we need to be educated. That's 1%. Then we need to learn how to read our ingredients. That's another %. Then we need to learn to swap things. So if your favorite cereal contains a bunch of artificial food dyes and coloring, we just need to find a new cereal. And it's not that hard, I promise you. And if you need swaps, please reach out to me, because I've been doing this for so many years that I have a lot of good things that I can share with you. I have a pantry staple that I will drop into the show notes that you can download to help, take some of that overwhelm away when you're trying to replace things. Because when we know better, we want to do better. And to do better, we have to make different choices. A couple of studies that I really wanted to reference was in 2007 in the Lancet. They wrote an article that linked artificial food dyes, particularly those found in popular snacks, to increased hyperactivity in children. And when it comes to red dyes, dyes in general, and hyperactivity, I do have a personal story, and it's actually one of the very first experiences I had with going against the grain. And so my youngest child, around age 3, started to have, or I noticed that she had some challenging behaviors, that she was impulsive, that things that mimicked hyperactivity. And so my brain went to what is happening at the times when these meltdowns are happening or these behaviors are coming out. And so as I peeled back the layers, I was able to discover that there were certain foods that were triggers. And by then looking at those foods and finding like commonalities, like what was in these foods that would be causing these things, dyes kept being repeated in the ingredient labels. And so I started to investigate and find out what in the world these dyes were. And that's where my awakening to what dyes actually can do to children kind of came about. And as I started to ditch those particular foods that were her trigger foods, her behaviors started to settle down. They were not as prominent, and she was able to have better self-control and regulate herself better, and so on. And, there was a time in which my husband wasn't a firm believer until he saw what he saw, which was foods that were triggering her behaviors. And so we made this decision as a family to peel back and not have those particular things be in the kids' snacks and foods in general. And I'm, very happy about that because it was just kind of my first step in the direction of this holistic, wellness journey that I've been on for the last 20 plus years. And another study by the Center for Science in the Public Interest reported concerns about several food dyes highlighting the risks for allergic reactions, behavior changes, and carcinogenic potentials. So these things are not just being made up. There are scientific papers and studies out there that are proving these things, but we don't hear about them because they're not going to let them get into the mainstream, because that's going to, again, affect the bottom line of these companies. Now, what in the world can you and I do as little old people just living our lives? A lot of us have this story and this narrative that we tell ourselves that what are we going to do as one person that's going to create big change? And I want to flip that script for you, because every person that does any of these three things we're about to talk about does help to move the needle forward in the transformation of health and wellness for all people, especially our children that don't have a voice. Number one, educate yourself, which that's what we're doing here today, and take that education and educate your friends and family. Start conversations. People don't know that there are food dyes in their food that they eat every single day, and they don't know the harmful effects that could potentially be lurking or part of their reasons for having a chronic disease or illness. By sharing what we've learned, we're sparking change, because knowledge is power, and the power is in the education. Number two is reading your ingredients. And I know you guys are all becoming ingredient detectives, which is amazing, and I'm so proud of you. And, making a conscious choice to care. So if a company is putting these food dyes into their foods and you're learning to flip and read your ingredient labels, you might consider it a signal that these companies don't have the best interest for your health. We can, number three, take a stand by voting with our dollars. And I've talked about this before. When we spend our money, we are telling a company, keep producing what you're producing because we love it, we're going to eat it, and we're going to keep buying from you. If we do not purchase, if we do not say we love it, they're going to change, because again, if it affects their bottom line, they will make the change. When you're going into the store and you're starting to purchase things and you're looking and you see if you see any food dyes, consider that. Consider whether you want to tell this company, yes, keep making this food and I'll keep buying it, or no, I'm not going to buy this any longer because it has something in it that couldn't affect my health negatively. And the more people that go that direction, it will then decrease their bottom line, which will then get them to change. And again, we are not asking for things that are not already created. They have these formulas that are going to other countries. And And those children and our children here deserve the same health and wellness in their food. And the very last thing that you can do is sign a petition. In the show notes, I'm going to drop a link. This petition was started by Vani, aka the Foodbabe. If you don't follow her, please go follow her. She began her journey years and years ago just by blogging information, just really that her family and friends read. And it started getting out there, and people are very interested. People don't want to be sick. People do want to be healthy, but they just don't know all of the things that are happening behind the scenes to make them unhealthy. And so Vani basically takes the bull by the horn. She creates petitions. She goes knocking on these headquarters doors, and she serves them. And she has made change in Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Starbucks. Those are the three that off the top of my head. Now, back in 2015, Kellogg's announced that they were going to be removing dyes. And not only have they not removed dyes, but they've been creating new cereals and been, putting them out for the public to eat. Two that I wanted to talk about was Peeps and the Icy cereal. Those are the newer ones. The icy little drinks that are all fun, crazy colors. And then Peeps, of course, being very colorful. Now, when you think about those two particular cereals or any cereals that are made off of a movie or a character, those are really targeting our small children. And I remember as a child walking in the grocery store and really wanting Captain Crunch. And my mom was like, no, we don't eat Captain Crunch. It's not good for us. My mom just, for whatever reason, we only had, I think, Rice Krispies. And I think our big treat was Frosted Flakes. But so again, they said they were going to do, they're not doing, and they're also creating new products to attract that younger generation. And now that we are educated as adults, and we need to keep spreading this information to adults because they are the purchasers of food for the little ones. So those three things are things that we can immediately do to take action to create this change. Educate yourself, your family, and your friends by starting that conversation. Read your ingredients and make decisions on how you're going to purchase and vote with your dollars, and then sign the petition. As we close today's episode, I just want to say that we do have the power to take control back over our health and wellness, whether we have to do it kicking and screaming or whether, it just happens nicely, which I'm not thinking is going to happen. So we are going to have to get a little loud. And I know when it comes to our kiddos, and for some of us, even our grandkids, we want better. We want them to have health and wellness and longevity. And if we're prescribing 6-year-olds Ozempic, which is something that is trying to be passed, which I'll put a petition out for that probably in the next 2 weeks. If that gets passed, that's just saying it's okay to keep the lifestyle that you currently have. And let's just put them on something to combat that, pre-diabetes, that diagnosis that they might be getting. And I'm here to say that type 2 diabetes can be managed mostly by lifestyle change. So let's stop the craziness. Let's take our power back. Let's spread the word, choose to avoid products, join the fight by signing the petition. Every small little act of change that we create is going to create the bigger transformation that we're looking for. Together, we can make a huge impact. I know it. I'm so excited about it. It's for our future selves, it's for our children, and it's for the future generations of other kids that are coming into this world. Thank you so much for tuning in today, for being on this journey, for your health and wellness, and for the wellness of your children and your future generations. Make sure you check out the show notes. Again, I'm going to link the petition for you guys to sign, share with your friends and families to have them sign. Let's get to that 200,000 signature mark. We're at about 149 as of this morning. So by the time you're hearing this, it'll be a little bit more than that. I know that we can get there by October 15th when this petition is going to be served to the Kellogg's headquarters in Michigan. Super excited about that. I'll be talking about it to the lead up of it and then give you the results after it's served. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day. Check out the show notes. Make sure you hop on Instagram, Live Life Balanced with Robin, to get your free download in the next couple of days about the different colors, the risks, and the new names that you might be seeing as you continue to read your ingredients. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys soon. Bye. Thanks for tuning in today. I loved being here with you. I hope that you got something from today's episode. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. Drop a comment below, and if you feel led to, download the episode and share it with someone you love that needs to hear this message. As we continue to spread the goodness of this podcast, I'd love for you to help us by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or a rate on Spotify. As we increase listeners, we will come up more often when women are searching for podcasts to listen to. To stay connected with me, you can check out my social media pages at Live Life Balanced with Robin. You can check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com. You can book a discovery call. And if you're looking for a way to get started right now, you can opt in for my new quick guide for the empty nester refresh. And as always, thank you for letting me be part of your day. It truly means a lot that you're allowing me to be on your wellness journey with you. Until next time, find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to happen.